That's right, guys. Dr. Crow has been buffed, and it's a good character to buff. I love this guy, but let's get into what changed with him. First thing is general health was increased by 35%. His vial launcher increased damage by 30% and also increased the heal by 30%. What does this mean? It means he is going to be an excellent replacement for your BBs and your Queen Booms in your lineup. But is he better than he looks even on paper? That is what we are going to be testing here today. I'm going to give you some basic tips and tricks, and then I'm going to give you my overall thoughts on this card and where he is now currently graded in Frag Pro Shooter. So with that being said, let's get into tip number 1 for Dr. Crow. And then it goes like this: aim high. This character's projectile arches, and it has a long bullet travel, so you have to aim ahead and aim high on a target if you want to hit them consistently. Now, it does have a really nice splash radius, which makes hitting targets a bit easier than it would normally be with this card, and this card kind of has a very happy balance whenever it comes to those particular style of play. I'm very excited, guys, for this card to be buffed, but before we get into the other stuff that came with this particular buff, we're going to move into our second tip here momentarily. But just to remind you guys, tip 1 was to aim high and aim ahead of your target, whichever direction they are heading. So that moves us into tip number 2. And it goes a little something like this: balance with ultimate ability. This card's ultimate ability is really good, but you have to balance your gameplay with fighting and healing. There are a few people that do this very, very good in the game of Frag. One of my teammates, Maui, is an exceptional Crow, and I think that he will be very pleased with this particular upgrade to one of his favorite characters. Honestly, guys, if you can learn to balance the gameplay with the damage and the heals on this card, you are going to be very annoying for your opponent, and your survivability is going to be through the roof. Excellent card for causing those major distractions and major damage on your opposing side of the field. Tip number 3, be sneaky. Dr. Crow is a sneaky character. You can expose him a little bit because he has health, but at the same time, you kind of want to play a little bit of corners and shadow games with him, as I would put it. And this will maximize your output and potential that you can get out of Dr. Crow. So what does it look like whenever you do this correctly? Dr. Crow becomes a force. He is very tricky to deal with, and if you can't one-shot him, he's just going to heal away from you, and you're going to be chasing him around forever. Now, that being said, we're going to move into a Street Frag match, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this buff, and was it enough to help Dr. Crow? Alrighty, guys, so let's talk about Dr. Crow as a whole. I like the buff that came to Dr. Crow. Dr. Crow is always an average card, in my opinion, and the buff just made him a little bit above average. This card is in a good place. I'd leave him as is. Realistically, this card is as good as the player who is playing them. This is not a card that is going to give you free quote-unquote skill. Broken cards. This is a card that if you are good with him, you will get big value out of him. And there's something to be said for cards like this. I wish more cards were like this, where if you play them well, you will get value. If you don't play them well, you will struggle. Dr. Crow is a very good balance of this, in my personal opinion. He has huge survivability, good damage, and a good ultimate ability that will heal your opponent, your teammates, for 80 damage. Then you can turn around and cause over 100 damage a shot at level 10, guys. This card is a very solid and sound card right now in Frag Pro Shooter, and I would recommend you take your time to get used to him. Now, to answer the basic question, was the buff enough? The buff was fine. This card was, honestly, the buff doesn't hurt it. It helps it a little bit, but it's not broken. Excellent job with this particular buff from OBB. Now, where is Dr. Crow graded? Dr. Crow is going to be sitting at an A tier character for me. And with that being said, whenever I say A tier, I'm referring to the average player is going to get A tier value out of Dr. Crow. There is going to be some exceptional ones that can make him feel like an S tier character, but those guys are going to be few and far between. So for now, Dr. Crow is going to be sitting at a sound A tier. I want to know your guys' thoughts on Dr. Crow in the comments down below. I would also like to see some screenshots of you guys completing the spinning wheel that will come with the Dr. Crow as well in a short format video. Thank you everybody for coming. Enjoy the rest of this match. Stay safe, and I will see you Legends next time. Bye-bye.